Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Global Card Collectors. Today we have on James. On Instagram, he's known as Mad City Collector. James has just launched, well, it's probably, 6 to 8 weeks old now, a podcast and YouTube channel called the Soccer Card Collective. I've been following James for quietly. We really haven't spoken very much per se, but really enjoyed his content on IG, and I was really excited that he started this podcast. We'll get into that a bit more, but with all that said, thanks so much for joining me tonight where I am, afternoon where you are, James. How are you today?
Pretty good. Thanks for inviting me on. Always enjoy talking about collecting soccer, especially. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. So James, yeah, as I mentioned, the Soccer Card Collective, I think you're 7 or 8 episodes in, recently launched. And, I just, I want to promote your show, number one, or your podcast. I think it's a great way for people who aren't that knowledgeable about the soccer card space to dive in. It's almost kind of for me like an audiobook at this point. The episodes are extremely organized, clear. You clearly have organized them before you do them, and so and it just helps kind of orient people to a market that's not easy to understand, and we'll get into that more probably.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've been, it's, to be honest, I've been thinking about doing something like this for a while. And, in some of the show notes, you've mentioned, a lot of the sources of information in soccer cards have been like, whether it's the vintage Discord with, Al Dragella and, he's got a YouTube channel where he has, if you go back into his archives, he's got lots of good information. That was one of the first places I remember starting. And then there was Soccer Study, which was Andre. He was a Portuguese collector. He ran like a Patreon and what for a few years. So those were two of the places I really like started. And Andre, I think it's been probably at least a year and a half, if not more, since he stopped doing his soccer study YouTube channel. So there's kind of been a vacuum, I feel like, with soccer specific content since then. And some of the other folks, there was the Soccer Cards United folks who they were really good about doing weekly or even bi-weekly podcasts for a while, but they opened a hobby shop in Ireland, and so they've really fallen off in terms of their content. So I figured, it's one of those things I've been thinking about doing. It was something that I decided to jump into with my job and family. I can't go into high production value. I was shooting more for the kind of aesthetic production value of Chris McGill, who you have had on previously. He has his Hoj casts he done. So this is kind of my poor man's attempt at doing the Mad City collector or Mad City cast or whatever, however you want to phrase it. But yeah, that's kind of the origin story of that. And I as far as an audience goes, I if it grows organically, I'm fine with that. If it's just kind of a repository for my own thoughts, for people who kind of are more interested in kind of the collecting framework and market type, viewpoint, people, hopefully a lot of these episodes will be evergreen, that people can come to. I'm not, I mean, I might dive into some more modern stuff occasionally, but yeah, it's more of like, kind of evergreen type of looking back at things that have been released, for years type of and mindset type of thing like that. So anyway, that's the long-winded story behind the
No.
origin of that.
Yeah, I do think, yeah, we were both. I mean, I think I first came aware of you through Andre. I mean, he was really the, I don't know, father or something of all of us. Like he really, was putting out so much content and kind of talking about the market. And I mean, I think he had a big role in kind of developing it on some level, at least among our small people who are online.
Yeah, certainly.
Um, And then and yeah, he's been gone, and there's definitely a dearth. I mean, I guess USMNT Soccer Cards still does his weekly Fanatics auction of soccer
Yeah.
cards recap. But yeah,
Y-
someone we might talk about too, Seth. He was doing a channel for a while. What's his handle?
A soccer card corner.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I mean, a lot of it. I have, you know, intermittent, just uh, like direct message conversations on Instagram with a lot of these people, just
Mhm.
talking about all of the things that I'm, probably gonna talk about on the channel. But I figured if it just, yeah, I just it was hopefully to be encouragement for other people to enjoy kind of the space as as I enjoyed it because I saw a lot of just people talking about just more prices and selling monetary type kind of going from that standpoint, looking at a lot of this stuff. And I wanted to look at like what's out there, why is it cool, how can you collect it, and so give people ideas. And and there are going to be things that I wanted to learn some things because even some things I've said on people have come back to me and said, oh, that's not actually technically correct. And I'm like, oh, that's good
Mhm.
to know. I didn't even know that those cards existed or those sets existed or I had forgotten type of thing. So that's good for me too because it's just kind of you know, people start sharing more if you have kind of a space and a community to kind of share it with type of thing. So
Totally, yeah, and I mean, it is, I think, hard for people to enter the space, just because some of the things you talk about, like rookie cards, are hard to understand, stickers, and really, as you lay out, anyone who's in the space knows 2014 is kind of the modern era starts. So yeah, we can kind of understand that with cards, but kind of before that, it's hard to kind of know what is good or something or what is valuable, and it being an emerging market still, I guess, to some extent, there is that kind of like Wild West, like, well, let's find the thing that's going to go up a lot, kind of mentality there.
yeah. Yeah, and I I guess to go I guess you were mentioned I guess that ties in really well to kind of my origin story in the sense that when I came like late 2020 early 2021 having been a collector growing up in the 90s the pursuit like the chase always was rookie otherwise it was rookie card or bust, kind of like growing up. I remember for the best cards for people. So that's when I first started. I was looking at that, prospecting like base rookie cards, and then pretty quickly I realized that kind of the house of cards, that all the value, like you were just really overpaying if you were kind of going down that road in terms of things like that. And so I want to say it was probably uh mid 2021 when I realized for my own enjoyment, I needed to pivot away to something that was a little more kind of made more sense as just more fun to collect and not something that you were gonna something with a little difficulty where your values were kind of would maintain over the future. Not that I was necessarily interested in monetary, but like I didn't want to spend something and then realize I could have spent like 10% to buy the same card like a few years later. So yeah, and so I did collect a lot of like pre-modern stuff and rookies for a while, and I don't think it was definitely at the peak of the market. So a lot of them have kind of come down in terms of what I'd have to pay to get the same things back now. But I still I kind of bought it with the mindset I really enjoy these, I want to own these type of thing. But that's when I kind of pivoted toward looking at more of the more modern serialized stuff and like how could I find fun in collecting stuff like that. But recently it's kind of come full circle. I was kind of giving it a few years to see how the graded populations for a lot of the pre-modern stuff would shake out, but there really hasn't been an increase in grading to any great degree, even in the last like 4 or 5 years. And so that was interesting. So I've kind of gone back in looking at, kind of save searches, waiting for things to pop up, but it's been slow, like even finding any graded of a lot of the pre-modern stuff that I've been looking for. So um and so yeah, it was probably mid 2022 or no, mid 2021 I started looking at vintage. And so that's when I got deep into Al's what Epic Cardboard, I think is his YouTube channel.
Hmm.
I was never really engaged in the Discord enough. They're little too much in the weeds for me to really like grasp like or I would have had to have read up and gotten versed in a lot of history and I'm really a more I mean I in the States it's just like we really only had European games on TV starting in the mid 90s I would say is probably when it became available at all. So I was like it makes more sense to me to stick with like the players I kind of grew up with collecting. And so that was while I did collect, Pele, Maradona, some of the more kind of iconic players from like the vintage era. I mean, a few Cruyff, a few George Best, things like that. And then some 1970 Panini stickers and things like that. I've kind of probably the majority of my collecting more recently in the last probably since 2023 has been, or late 2022 and 2020. Since then, it's been mostly modern, I would say, but I still have bought pre-modern and vintage since then. But yeah, that's kind of
Okay, so you've been collecting soccer cards since the 90s?
no, not since the 90s, but as a
Okay.
fan, I'd say I've
Okay.
like, and so I guess that goes to my origin of why I've dedicated myself to soccer. Is I've been a soccer fan, and when I realized that there was a soccer card space in like 2021, I was like, I didn't know this existed, and this is like almost a way to connect with other my people in terms of soccer card because it's even though it's a huge worldwide sport in the US, it's not, you can't just talk to any old person about soccer here. I mean, there are a lot of fans, I would say, here, but it's still, it's not like NBA or NFL where, you can almost strike up a conversation with the majority of, you know, another man, like just like, oh, what about how are the Green Bay Packers doing, or
Right.
how's the Milwaukee Bucks or whatnot going. But so yeah, so it was kind of an avenue as a fan to dip into like connecting with my people. It's and I, for various stages of my life, I just too busy or didn't, have kind of the resources to like dump into like having a hobby at all, really. Um, but I got to the point in my life where it made sense to have a hobby for various reasons. Just a healthy way to kind of disconnect from certain things in the geopolitical sphere that were stressing me out and things like that. So
I totally
that makes
understand.
sense.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's why we're here. I don't, no one ever really talks politics or anything, although I've been known to drop in an occasional thing here or there. But yeah, so and you grew up and you became a Man City. I'm sorry, Manchester United
Yeah.
fan. We were talking beforehand about how, his handle is Mad City. This is for Madison, Wisconsin. Mad is just short for Madison. But yeah, Man United, right?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it was one of those things like choosing a team. I was like, do I want to be a long-suffering fan of a team that like never wins anything, or do I want to be a team who's going to be competing for, theoretically competing for trophies every year? And I was just like, I'm going to go with the New York Yankees of the English Premier League, just because I want to have teams to root for at all the competition. So, you know, not the not some people do choose to suffer whether they're like Everton fans or Tottenham fans and things like that, but I chose to have a little more a little more something to kind of course that hasn't been the case since Alex
Right.
Ferguson left. Hasn't come to fruition like I thought it would, but in theory they'll go back to being a powerhouse. Knock on wood at some point, but I've been saying that for the last probably 10 years. So we'll but yeah, so I guess I have been a long-suffering fan, even despite the fact that I was planning not to be. So
Yeah, you tried to you try to control these things and
yeah, you never know who's going to buy, and like like it seems to be if you have a huge benefactor, like I mean, within European football, if you will, it's like that seems to be the main correlation, unless I guess you're Real Madrid or Barcelona, but Barcelona, I don't know what their books are like. So it seems to
nobody
be funny money with
understands.
them.
Yeah, definitely.
They have all these restrictions and debt, but at the same time, they're still spending big money. So I don't really. Sometimes I don't understand the actual market dynamics of some of these clubs, but
They're just kind of like too big to fail, it feels like.
yeah, that's exactly. I think that's exactly right.
Um, cool. And I know, so there are a couple sets that you're best known for collecting, but maybe since we're talking about United, you kind of player collect, right? Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, so I have probably that's kind of in the last year or so I've been more focused on that. I was I was kind of I've developed a sort of patience. Like I wanted to look at his landscape and catalog, and so for the last like few years, I've kind of been watching it, and a lot of his higher end stuff hasn't really come to market, and so. I think about a year ago, uh, or maybe it's been a year and a half. I've lose track of time with a lot of this collecting. I think it's probably been more like a year and a half. Someone posted his 2014 World Cup Prizm Gold Power, so the numbered out of
Wow.
five. And I was just like, like if I'm going to start diving into him, this is like a great card to start with. And so I pulled the trigger on that because I've never seen another copy of it, graded or ungraded or anything. And so I'm like, and you look at kind of a lot of chatter with Messi, a lot of chatter with, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lamine Yamal, Mbappe, all these people, and you see what prices their cards of this like caliber go for, and it's just like it was an expensive card, but I was like, this is for a player that I enjoyed as a fan more than any of those other players. Uh, it seemed crazy not to kind of jump into kind of that sort
Mhm.
of, it's kind of almost like arbitrage, I guess you could say. It's just like if you're a Manchester United fan, I mean, he's more, I mean, obviously Cristiano Ronaldo played for Manchester United, and I think a lot of fans do like collecting him, but him leaving for Real Madrid always left a, kind of a sour taste in my mouth. And so it was Wayne Rooney. I'm definitely more of a fan of his as a United fan, and I guess the other reason I chose him over maybe some other players like David Beckham or things like that, because probably, the first player I was probably a big fan of was David Beckham, but the fact that Rooney kind of spanned some like, kind of that pre-modern era going into the modern era where I could collect some of him in some more modern sets, it really appealed to me. Uh, Giving that variety and, different things to kind of go after and chase. So that's kind of my mindset behind, pivoting some of my attention to him. And part of it's that, yeah, my collecting of some of the other sets is kind of slowed down. And so it kind of left me
Right.
time and resources to allocate more to that sort of collecting.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that it's probably so maybe we'll get into that then because
Yeah.
people will understand a bit better. Um, so yeah, the first thing I knew about you is that you were collecting 2017 Topps Chrome, the entire set in the red out of 10 parallel. And I guess I'll let you kind of take it away. Why did you choose to do that and how's it going and
Yeah.
all these things?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess it even starts before that. So I actually started collecting the 2017 Topps Chrome Champions League gold refractor set first. Um, those weren't super plentiful on the market. They weren't super plentiful graded. So I thought it was going to be maybe more challenging than it ended up even being. So I've collected up to this point 98 of the 99 of those. But I
Wow.
was able to do that in about a year and a half. So I've kind of been biding my time with the Mbappe just because it's such a it's such a high price point. And as a prospect, he was kind of falling off, and I wasn't exactly sure. I wasn't in a rush to necessarily complete it, but because I was able to complete that, and I think some more started coming to, there started to be more attention. I don't know whether it's based off of my podcast with Andre. Sometimes I feel like, you put yourself out there, people become more aware and start to kind of look at those things. And even now, like there's a Cajun Cardboard. I don't know if he's a
Yeah.
well-known Michael Jordan collector. He's collecting the 2017 Chrome. He's trying to complete it in PSA 10. And so that was the thing I considered. I considered like maybe I should go after it in PSA 10, but I've kind of, as I've evolved, I would rather go for the much rarer parallels than I would go for, getting a PSA 10 graded scarcity for it. So, as I was, my gold set was kind of, in point in terms of, what I was doing with that. I was like, um, how do I, come up with a project that will sustain me because I was looking, I'm looking this as a hobby that can sustain me for kind of years down the line, something that have
Hmm.
fun chasing that's, somewhat difficult. And so that's when I kind of pivoted to, I was like, oh, when I see red refractors, I'll pick them up. At that point, there were literally maybe 10 of any player that were showing up per year. Like if you go back to Card Ladder, I mean, you just didn't see the red refractors come up for public sale. Like you'd see a few on Instagram. And so I didn't think I would necessarily make much headway on it. And so maybe I picked up four or five, and then all of a sudden there was another collector. I think his IG handle was Super Trout 27. So he had ripped maybe 20 cases of 2017 Topps Chrome in 21, 22, chasing the well, I think it was the super refractor or the red refractor Mbappe specifically. That's what he was like chasing, and he's kind of a super high end guy who just doing it for the thrill, I guess. But he kind of, I think he was kind of a transient in the space, and so during the course of breaking all these cases, he ended up with a bunch of reds, and so he started, collecting the red set even before I did, and so I think he had amassed maybe 50 of them.
Wow.
But when he was like kind of got bored with the space, he just essentially put them all up for auction. And so if you go back on Seth's channel, there was an episode where we just kind of went through kind of what was happening with this like fire sale that happened in late 2023 of all of his cards. And I was like, I'm never gonna have an opportunity to buy a bunch of these again. And I think I bought of his 50 some, I think I bought either probably around 40 I ended up getting of his 50, maybe 50, 55. And so the only one I missed out on, and I kind of regret it now, is his Cristiano Ronaldo red that he sold. In retrospect, it was a good. I knew, to be honest, I knew it was a decent price at the time, but I was spending so much to buy. I was like, I would rather buy 40 rather than go back and kind of it's like I'll maybe another one will come to market at some point, but unfortunately, I think with the run up recently in the market, the Cristiano Ronaldo is like almost prohibitively expensive at this point to go after. Um, but yeah, so that was kind of it. I was looking for a project. I love because I collected the gold. I kind of enjoyed just the aesthetics of the cards. I enjoyed just collecting a wide range of players, just because I really am a fan of the sport in general and the Champions League especially. And so even if I wasn't super familiar with a lot of the players, I just enjoyed looking at the cards and like just the process of collecting a set that was kind of challenging to collect. And I just enjoy just the aesthetic of even the players that I don't love. And I think my most recent acquisition was a Benfica player, Pizzi, I think is how you pronounce his name, but it's a color match. Benfica fans, whenever I hear them, they talk about him fondly whenever they kind of think of him. So but even just seeing that kind of color match on a card is just almost like a work of art. Even though I'm not necessarily familiar with the subject matter, I enjoy the card. So that's kind of, I've really kind of, time spent with the set. I just have kind of cultivated that within, intrinsically. Not everyone, I think, probably responds the same way, but that's kind of good for me because I can collect them without completely breaking the bank on a lot of these. But yeah, but yeah, some of them, Manchester United, even though the player set isn't great, like, people spend money just because it's the Manchester United jersey and things like that. So, and a few other collectors have come into the space, making it a little more expensive in certain cases, but yeah, so that's kind of how I got into that's my 2017 Chrome jersey. And I guess as far as my progress on the red set, I'm up to 81 of 99 now. So,
Okay.
um, in the last 6 months, I think I've only added one new one. So it's definitely slowed down since, I kind of started this, and I think summer 2023 is when I uh, ultimately in earnest started it. So it's definitely slowed down, and I'm, trying to pick them up where I can, type of thing.
Yeah, I've also heard Liverpool goes for crazy because
Oh yeah,
the color match and it's out of 10 and I mean it's also, I mean, 2017, just I don't think you said it, but it's the first year of Topps Chrome, so it's a
oh
very
yeah,
important set in terms of legacy for those who don't know it. And you've made this point too, 17, for me broadly, I mean, this Messi Ronaldo era is kind of just like golden age of football that really elevated the sport, just having these two guys. And but 2017, 18, like that set, particularly 2017, it crosses over with these kind of two generations of players. So you have the young Mbappes and stuff going on, but then obviously those two greats and so many other greats. Like it's just an amazing generation of players in that set, right?
exactly. That's yeah. No, I guess I kind of took for granted that maybe our audience would realize, yeah, that it's become so ingrained to me now that it was like the first Topps Chrome, and that gives it some significance. But yeah, but I think that layered on with just I think the aesthetic of the cards
Mhm.
is the secret sauce behind it. 2014 Prism is kind of the same thing. It's like you're saying, it's a confluence of two different eras crossing over. You have some people at the very tail end of their career, for it's in 2000, in the 17-18 Chrome, like Iniesta, that's his last year with Barcelona. Um, players like, Buffon make it into the set. Even Casillas and his, even though he's not with Real Madrid anymore, made it into the set. So like Neuer, like, so essentially all like three of the best, goalkeepers of, a huge period of time ended up in the set. Cristiano Ronaldo last year with, Real Madrid, along with, yeah. And so like any set with, I think looking back, like any set with Lionel Messi in it is going to have a certain cachet to it going forward. And so having, yeah, Messi, Ronaldo in the sets, any set from kind of that golden period that I've kind of coined, or I've heard other people refer to it, that really is what elevates a lot of those sets during that era. Because they're essentially in all the sets, the Panini sets from that era. But
So,
but
no,
yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, 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 you're good.
I mean, so I'm just guessing the audience wants to know about the big ones. Do you have like the Messi and the Ronaldo? What are the big cards that you're missing from 2017 or?
Yeah, so from the 2017 red, I do have, as my mug. This is my copy of the 2017 Messi. I got that probably, what was it, late 2024 at auction from Golden. It's the PSA. It's a PSA 7, but it is the jersey number 10 out of 10 copy. So,
Hmm.
and so as far as grade goes, there's a little bit of a surface issue on the back, I think, is what brings it down but I haven't actually had it in hand because I'm a little afraid we were discussing this earlier. I'm a little afraid to mail it. So it's in the PSA vault right now. And eventually I may make a pilgrimage to bring it back home, but I just heard too many horror stories of the mail to have it shipped here. But yeah, for me, it's like actually at the time there's a PSA 8 copy that also someone had kind of offered to me, but when the jersey number came into became available via Golden, it was kind of that aspect of it was, no matter the grade, I think that was going to be the best copy for me personally. Have it the jersey numbered, just and then there's there's a little bit of collector kind of theory behind the whole idea of kind of the jersey number. There's certain famous collectors like Spinachon who are just,
Mhm.
that number is like almost like a one-of-one stamp on a card. Depending on the set. Obviously, there is a super factor in 2017 Chrome, which I think would always be a premium over, say, a jersey number red. But for me as a collector of the set, I mean, in some ways, it's better than the superfractor, for my personal collection and story. And so it was just like kind of a coup. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just, it was, yeah. I was thrilled when I got it. It was uncomfortably large purchase for me. It was by far the most expensive card I've ever done. But having been in the space, knowing we were in kind of a down period then, I was like, I don't think there's a time point where I'll ever get this for cheaper. And I kind of foresaw what's happening now. I kind of knew that there would be another time like this where there'd be more, kind of higher income people who would go into the space. And this is clearly a card that they would target, kind of the red color match, with the blue and red Barca, and things like that. So I have that one. I don't have the Cristiano Ronaldo yet. Kind of regret. There's a couple auctions before I really was kind of committed to really going after this that came up that I would gladly go back and pay now. And the Mbappe I do not have. So those two big ones I don't have. As far as, there's a couple other, notable players, like Mo Salah will be expensive whenever he comes up. Robert Lewandowski I've only ever seen one copy of that come up a couple times. I think he'll end up being pretty expensive, but yeah, I think there are a couple others probably would be Roberto Firmino. I've lost two auctions on him at kind of absurd price for the level of player he is. But and yeah, Liverpool definitely. I paid up recently for the Trent Alexander-Arnold. I knew if I let it go, get in the hands of a Liverpool collector, I probably wouldn't see it
Hmm.
again. And so I just made sure I had it. So,
Yep.
and luckily it was kind of more in the down period. So I think relatively speaking. I think people are coming around to my viewpoint of how special these cards are, and so I'm glad I got in before I think people were realizing how special these are. So yeah,
I mean,
I do
yeah,
have.
amazing, amazing run. I do remember that when all those came out, and I did listen to your episode with Seth. And yeah, that sounded like the most intense thing, just like all
I,
these.
well, they were very like you couldn't tell there was zero feedback bidders and all sorts of things going on, and it was
Was the Modric also there was, I mean,
also
I follow Modric. I mean, I know some Modric
yeah.
sold for like 10K or something, which was kind of absurd or something.
Yeah, and so that was interesting. Thank God I had actually, let me see. I have it here somewhere. I have all of them here, but it was I had got that was one of the first ones I'd actually gotten was the Modric. Um I it so someone it was a Chinese seller. I know I have it here somewhere. Had put it on like I think it was I think it was a like a bin price of 4,000, and I just looking at the other copies of Red Vector, I didn't actually bid it at that price. He ended up sending, oh, here it is. He ended up sending a lots of
Yeah, look at that. It's
and
great.
so yeah. So anyway, so he ended up sending like I think a discount like unsolicited. I didn't even offer anything for like 25% off that price or something, or maybe 20% off or something at that price. And I was just like looking at how few of these showed up and things like that. I just like accepted his offer. And so and so thankfully, like I got it for, a third of the price that 10K sale was, because
Mhm.
that's kind of the comp now. And so whether another one, if it came up for auction, went for that price or not, that comp is still out there. And now that kind of that actually didn't seem as at the time 10K seemed crazy. Everyone's like, oh, it's a shill, whatever. And maybe the guy who ended up buying it did get chilled, or maybe there were two collectors who legitimately were like dying to have that card. Um, and so, the person who bought it clearly, we haven't seen it again. It hasn't come back up. It hasn't been rerun or anything. So
Mhm.
the person who bought it's happy with it, and hasn't come back for sale. So I'd be stuck, looking for one. I think maybe a PSA 9 has come for sale since then. I can't remember exactly. I've kind of lost track of which ones I've seen in
Mhm.
PSA 9 copies. But there's been a couple. Uh, I think I may have been able to get a PSA 9 copy for a fraction of the price, but and that's another thing. In some ways I prefer PSA 9 copies if I get them at like a fraction of the price because I'm doing the set. And to be honest, visually speaking, I don't think you can tell much of a difference between
Yeah,
a
I
9 and
mean,
a
I was
10.
gonna say with the Messi, I mean, PSA sevens too, you can't really tell even when you look at it. So it's like,
No, and I think it's a back surface issue. I think
right.
certain of the cards have like a little almost, it's like a manufacturing kind of almost indentation on the back. I have the Pulisic copy of the red I have, I think has the same defect, and it's a BGS 8, and it was a Surface 7, but 9.5 on all the other aspects. And so that's the thing with PSA. You never know what all is bringing it down to a 7. But I think the rest of the card is probably a PSA 10. I think it's just that surface thing just automatically brings it down to a 7.
Mhm.
And it's on the back. And so, like I said, visually speaking, I don't think it affects much for me. And yeah, the jersey number. I would rather have that PSA 7 jersey number than a PSA 10, to be honest. It may be a minority. I wouldn't trade it for a PSA 10. Yeah, end of story.
Cool.
But I'm not. I'm probably not. I'm probably in the minority for that kind of viewpoint.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I'm with you on that. I don't know. I mean, obviously the price, even jersey number, who knows? I mean, that might kind of cancel out with PSA 10 the price, but I like the jersey number as well.
yeah. For me personally, yeah. So but yeah. So that's yeah. I can't remember whether where your question was going there, but I always go off on tangents. But
That's all right. So okay. I mean, kind of to sum up, I guess it's fair to say your regrets in pursuing this set are not kind of going for the big ones earlier, I guess. Is that
yeah, yeah. I just when you talk about it, yeah, I committed to because I think I was a little gun shy having maybe overspent in 2021 and
Mhm.
2022 on certain cards and just seeing how much it had fallen and things were falling. I think there was a because like and so I was a little gun shy in terms of how much I was willing to spend, thinking maybe I could pick it up for cheaper later. And in retrospect, I probably should have trusted my gut and been like, this is only going to go up. As far as like, I'm never going to get it for cheaper, I guess is the way I would frame it. And so, um, yeah. And when you're talking these over with your wife and like explaining these things, it's like, you spent how much? Like, type of thing. Like, well, it's going to go up in value. It's like, and you kind of roll your eyes, like, it's like,
Right.
but, and so there's just all those sorts of dynamics at play. And, even though I'm not selling any of these, it's like, yeah, you want to you don't want to have, be absolutely crushed type of thing. So
Of course. I mean, I think we all want
yeah,
our cards
it's,
to go up. Yeah.
yeah. And, well, I'm happy to be honest. A
Hold
lot of these, I'm
value.
happy if they just kind of slowly go up because I'm still collecting them and I'm not looking to
Right.
cash out. And so that's kind of the dynamic you run into. It's like, yeah, I don't want them to go down is really probably where I'm at with a lot of these. If they go up slowly, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I almost
like
don't want them to 10x overnight because I still want to collect them. Like
totally. I mean, I got in, I think say 20, I got in 21, but I didn't go to soccer maybe till 22 or something. But I mean, I do basketball and soccer. Um and we only knew, right? Like a falling market. So, you know,
yeah,
and I remember people would be saying, I liked it when I like a down market better. And I was like, what are you talking about? I couldn't understand that. But now
now I
5
do.
years
Yeah.
later, as Andre used to say, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market.
Yeah.
And of course, he's not in the market anymore, but
Yeah. Yeah. He's still, I think he's still holding some cards, but but he's doing
yeah,
his own. He has that other, I think European reacts to crazy American stuff. That's
yeah,
his channel now or
yeah.
whatever. I don't know if you've seen that channel,
I haven't, I
but
haven't checked it out. No.
I just for nostalgia, just seeing him do it is kind of funny. But anyway,
Yeah, I
but yeah,
might
that's,
have to. Yeah. All right. Well, the other set, which I might personally be more interested in, that I know you collect, is the 2018 World Cup Prism insert set. It's called Landmarks.
yeah, yeah. So
Um, and you
here's
do
my,
the Mojo Parallel, which is out of 25. And there are 32, 30,
correct. 32.
32,
Yeah. For one for every team. Yeah.
one for every team. For other sports, I'd say it's kind of like a downtown to some extent, but it's national landmark. They're national things in the player's background. It denotes their country.
Yeah.
And this is the first year of that that insert set. They did it again in 2022, but without parallels. Just
Correct. Yeah.
um, and no repeat players I noticed in 2022. So
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, it's a very interesting set. I mean, if you're
It is.
a fan of, if you're Iranian, let's pump them up right now, maybe. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah. Yeah.
know. There's this guy, Serdar Azmoun. We have this story from the German card show last year. This guy's a huge Serdar Azmoun collector,
Yeah.
and he has a copy in the 2022, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm getting off topic. But I find it fascinating. I'm kind of into national team. I like flags and that kind of stuff. So on cards. So I find the set very interesting. I've never bought one or had one in hand. So I'm eager to eager to hear you talk about it. I'll leave it
Yeah.
there.
Oh
I
yeah,
probably
yeah.
have some
Here's the
questions for you.
here's the Iranian one for this set. Yeah. So it's anyway, yeah. So
Yeah.
so the case hit kind of downtown kaboom. Like there's that whole craze that's ongoing. I think it's been going on for a while, I think, even at this time. But um I wasn't sure how quickly I'd be able to get the red refractor sets. And so I was just kind of, what's another fun set that I can just chase? It doesn't show up very often. What have I not seen sales of? What cards do I think are cool? Um, as far as soccer, like inserts, I mean, this set was by far my number one favorite. Like I looking at everything, people like downtowns and things like that. But yeah, it's, one card per country. So not only is it a chase for player potentially, it's also a chase. It is like, the insert for your country.
Hmm.
Um, and I think as you were saying in the 2018 version, there were the non-numbered the 25 Mojo, the out of 5 gold power, and then there was the 1 of 1 scope. And so the interesting thing is, it's like to be honest, the scopes, I can't even tell them the difference between that and the base. And
Okay.
so
Same.
visually speaking, gold power, the out of 5, is like probably the best visually.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mojo is like a close second. I mean, visually, like that Mojo parallel is fantastic. And so I was just I kind of I never see these. Like, these are cool. Like, I love these inserts. This will be a fun project. Like, where are all these cards? That was like one of my questions. I was like, I hardly saw any sales of any of the parallels. I was like, where are these cards? And so that's kind of a fun story, because I was really, baffled, because you almost see no sales. I've seen a few more in the last couple years, but I was like, oh, let me just cut, let me see if I can collect the set, the Mojo set out of 25. There's no way I would be able, price wise, prohibitively expensive for the gold power. But there is this one Ruben card collector. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram. He's been collecting the set since release in 2018, and he put together the gold power and the Mojo sets, which is wild. But anyway, he's Peruvian. And so what I realized is that, because it was Peru's first time in the World Cup, for I think it was like decades. Like, I can't remember off the top of my head when the last time he'd been in is. US wasn't in that World Cup. And so
Right.
US collectors weren't as interested in the set. So there were breakers, like I think there was Peru, like soccer, card breaker was breaking tons of these cases, because they were having a hard time selling the cases. And so a bunch of these cards ended up in Peruvian collectors' hands at the time of release, because of this quirk of no US collectors and these like one Peruvian breaker, with the excitement of all these Peruvian like fans. And so a bunch of these cards ended up in Peru. And so all of a sudden, I think when the market kind of went down, I think people started to kind of want to get out. And so I found this one Peruvian collector who, on, I don't know, I think on Facebook and Instagram, he was like posting that they were for sale. So I bought maybe a few from him. And then I posted it, and Ruben Card Collector saw that I was collecting. And he's like, oh, I have some friends who are looking to sell these. And so I ended up making it between this other Peruvian collector who I just kind of came across on Facebook, and Ruben Card Collector. I was able to collect, I think, 29 of the 32 within
Unbelievable.
like within like a 2 or 3 month period. It was just like, I was like, I haven't even seen 29 of these copies sell publicly ever, but I was able to get 29 of the 32 in like a really short amount of period. And the messy, like, and the thing was, it's like, I was like, they had kind of a high asking price, and I was just like, oh, this is what I'm willing to pay for these, blah blah blah. They're raw. I don't know what condition they're in, type of thing. And eventually, like, they kind of ended up accepting my offer, even though they were initially like, no, no, that's way too little. But I was just like, that's my offer.
Yeah.
Whatnot. But in retrospect, I kind of probably I came off way in the good, especially on the Messi. I think the Messi now is probably worth 4 or 5 times what I've ended up paying for it. Um, I don't have the Cristiano Ronaldo yet, which there are a couple out there that are being floated around, but I'm kind of waiting for another one to come up to market. Hopefully in like a PSA 9 or even a PSA 8. I'd rather buy it in
Seven.
that
Yeah.
condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7, yeah, or raw, whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of the copies out recently have been like either BGS 9.5 or PSA 10s, and so I was like, I don't. I'm waiting for. And so that's the one I'm missing, and then I'm also missing Jefferson Farfan, who's the Peruvian player. So that goes back to the fact that the Peruvian collectors probably are holding on to, of all the ones they're holding on to, he's the one one did come up for auction, and it went for kind of a high price for him. And so I'm kicking myself now that I didn't pick it up when it came for auction, but it was like kind of a high price for like a player who I'm not familiar with. And so if I have 30 of the 32. Now I did end up picking a Young Min Son. Not that was the last one I picked up, and so that I picked that one up raw. But obviously he's like, again, like, if you're a Korean, South Korean fan, I mean, gosh, like, for me that would have to be one of the Grail cards for like Heung-min Son, like like that's. And I think his gold power is sold, crazy prices. But yeah, but yeah, it's and from a nerd perspective, like you said, if you look at the background of the cards, whether you like, go to here's Chicharito. It's one of the few graded ones I have, PSA 10. These are really hard to grade too because they had lots of manufacturer's defects on them. But if you go to the background, like if you read the write up on the card, it says if you want to make rounds in Mexico, you might have to step up your game, especially if you want to climb El Castillo at Chichen Itza or the Pyramid of Sun. On the card they actually talk about the landmarks in the background. And if you go to some of the posts I have about these, I was like, oh, cool. Let me like frame this card with whatever national landmarks on the card in the background. And I was like, that was just like a cool nerdy way of me enjoying posting the cards and like almost appreciating all these landmarks and even learning about some of them. A lot of the landmarks I wasn't even familiar with, um, and so it was kind of just having the cool landmarks, almost learning about the countries as I'm,
Hmm.
kind of collecting them. It was, yeah, that sort of characteristic of them, for me added something like an appeal to these cards that like a Kaboom doesn't have because there's nothing culturally significant about a Kaboom. But having these culturally significant elements like in the card was just, it's almost like, I almost thought of it going back, if you go back to 90s card collecting, there's the, PMG, what do they call them? Championships, where they have almost the skyline of a lot of the city or
Yeah.
landmarks in the background of those. And this was kind of a more kind of animated artistic version. But it's like that. I mean, same thing with downtowns. I think a lot of the times they have themes that are, relevant to the cities where they come from. But like whole country national landmarks was even more upping the ante for me in terms of kind of the cultural, even aesthetic appeal. Uh, it was, yeah, it was as far as like an insert goes, it was like not even close. Like when I kind of went through the whole landscape of inserts of which one I wanted to collect. And so yeah, it's been fun. I haven't really, like I said, picked up only one in probably the last year and a half, probably.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
and I almost want to, if I may end up picking the non-numbered Cristiano Ronaldo up just to kind of as a placeholder at some point. Or
Hmm.
I've even been waiting for the Jefferson Farfan. Like I haven't even seen a non-numbered version of that one come up because I'd probably pick that up as a placeholder too. But and then and I have so and even from for the 2022 set, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with that. They came out pretty hot right at release, but they're still like they still haven't dropped as much as I thought they would. I think they're cheaper than maybe they were, but I only have one of the 32, well, 31 of those. That's the interesting story about the 2022 version is they never released a French version, and I've never heard why. Of all the
Huh.
32 teams, France, they just something happened and they didn't release. I'm assuming it would have been Kylian Mbappe, because Griezmann is in the 2018 set, and he was the more important player, even though Mbappe gets all the headlines now. Griezmann was for sure the more important player in the 2018 World Cup. So, um, but yeah, I have never heard the story of why the France national landmarks never got released. I kind of want to ask a Panini rep at some point. I just to know, like, are there in their vault somewhere? Are there cards that are for some reason can't be released? I mean, do they exist? Like, I'm always like, are some gonna, how like all the Fleer cards that weren't meant to be released, with bankruptcy got released, or maybe some employee just kind of on the way out the door just like slips a couple into their pocket or something.
Right.
You always wonder like if something like that will ever happen. But yeah, I think it may, I probably will at some point probably dive into the 2022 landmarks. And collect some more of those. I think Bruno Fernandez is the only one I have now.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah,
but
I lived in Senegal for 2 years, and it was during their it was 02 to 04. 02 was their World Cup
yeah,
run. And so there are like eight of them on eBay now, so I could just go buy it, fine. But I'm debating buying a Sadio Mane. And maybe I will. I guess my question for you is, you've obviously seen the 2022. Do they look as nice as 2018? Is there kind of no difference or?
yeah. I think I think as far as like general aesthetic, I think they look. I mean, they're pretty. I mean, I think it's good that they don't. Well, so they did repeat some players in the 2024 Copa America. So Messi does have a second one but he doesn't have any numbered copies. But yeah, for the most part, like you said, they don't repeat players. And so that makes it at least like if they were, repeat like had multiple versions of a player or like or multiple players on a single team, I think the homogeneity of it would lose appeal, but I think they do look pretty, like pretty similar. I think they're aesthetically they're the same.
Okay.
And like I said, with the Mojo, it's like that extra like feature of it really like spoke to me. Like I
Hmm.
adding to the aesthetic of just kind of even the base silver. But I think even yeah, even just the base versions of it. I think as a collector, in some ways that works. It's just better. I mean, you can actually collect the whole set or without like just absolute. I mean, getting crushed. But if you're a player collector, I think you kind of lean more towards wanting the parallel. So,
Yeah.
um,
If you ever come across a second Modric, keep in mind,
oh, for the,
for
oh
the
yeah,
2018. Yeah, I kind of think that's where I want to go with him next. But
yeah, no, even because yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it's fantastic looking. The Modric, like I can't remember. Oh yeah, and this one of all of them, this is I think my only one that's it's a jersey match 10. So
okay,
it's
amazing. Yeah,
it's I didn't even realize it when I bought it to be honest, but I'm not sure if the person who sold it to me realized it either.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
it's a fantastic, especially if you're a Modric. I mean, yeah, if you're a Modric collector, I mean, yeah, any of those from that is probably just got to be. It would be a great, yeah. Other like 2014, obviously Prizm is a fantastic one if you're a Croatian fan. 2017, Topps Chrome. For me, it was probably his, other than 2014 Prizm, or it's like I guess from a club standpoint, 2017 Chrome is his my favorite one of his cards. But
Yeah.
um, I mean, I know because I'm trying to think what other off the top of my head I can't remember. Because he's in some of the select sets, I think. But yeah,
Yes.
I just yeah, but I don't know. Obviously, I clearly love the 2017
It-
Topps Chrome, so I'm
I
always going to be
mean,
biased,
yeah,
with reason about which one is my. Well, I guess we're all entitled to have our favorites. I'm
of
not saying it's
course.
the best, but
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I think I think if you put up a poll, I mean, I probably 2014 World Cup would win because I don't know, it's the first, and
yeah, yeah.
everyone thinks it's the bee's knees. I don't think it's that visually appealing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I've said it before. It's of all the prison, whether any sport, it's it's one of the worst designs for my. I think the color matches are okay. I mean they have a higher number. I think the red or if a team has a red or blue color match or even like Brazil with the green crystals, like I think
hmm
those do look really nice. But as far as like, golds a lot of times carry the aesthetic, the set, and the golds really aren't very aesthetically pleasing to me. I
hmm
do have the gold Rooney, I'm like, just because of, kind of a significance of the set in the space. I was like, I really, I figured I'd get it too. But, and the gold powers, I think because it carries kind of the superfractor aesthetic throughout even the non-gold portion of the card, I think it gives a little more interest to me design wise. But yeah, no, I agree. For me personally, as a collector, that has held me back from buying too heavily in that.
hmm
And they're expensive. But
Yeah, I mean, you gotta, we all have limits,
yeah,
somewhere.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the gold power, I mean, and the gold power on the landmarks is just like, I mean, I was gonna ask you who has that because I wanted to look at that. So I'm now following them on Instagram, the Ruben card collector.
Yeah.
But I mean, those are, I mean, they look like gold vinyl, kind of superfractor.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. And I haven't picked up one yet. I just in some ways they go for pretty steep prices and so you know, when I'm throwing out the significant money for the red refractors, it's just like I have to make decisions. I can't collect everything. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
and that's kind of why I've made all these barriers for myself to just try to there's lots of things I like and Rooney's relatively cheaper, so I can go deeper into kind of his catalog. And I've really loved going back to the Topps Premier Gold sets from like 2013, 14 through 2016, 17 because they have parallels in all those sets, and it's like I've always followed the Premier League more than any of the other leagues, so it's like those sets are still under the radar as far as a lot of collectors, and so that's kind of I'm not breaking the bank, and I'm getting cool numbered cards from Manchester United and Rooney from that era. So
Um, if you could get a gold power of any of the landmarks, which one would it be?
Oh, I mean, it'd be messy, but to be honest, yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's like since there's no U.S. player. If it was a U.S. player, maybe I would say that. But since there's no U.S. player, um, uh, but yeah, I mean, Messi. I mean, even though wasn't primarily a Barcelona fan, I mean, I remember when Messi, Ronaldinho and Messi, and like I remember when Ronaldinho said this, like, "You think I'm good? Like, just wait for this kid." I like before anyone knew who Messi was, and so I've kind of been following this kind of like prodigy, like since his inception. Just like I've been aware of him. I mean, you probably have too, but it's just. He's mesmerizing to watch. Like, that's what I don't know. That's what people, I mean, a lot of people I think talk about GOAT this, GOAT that, like as a player. I mean, obviously, I think Cristiano Ronaldo, Manchester United, there was a period there where, he was probably as mesmerizing as Messi was. But
Hmm.
Messi has just like been such a, just as a player, was just always like, as visually speaking, entertainment wise, did it for me. Just, again, we're allowed to have our favorites. It's like
Sure.
it's not objective, but yeah. But anyway, yeah. So that's partially why him. But I'm trying to think other than Messi, because that's kind of the boring answer. Um, I mean, I did the Modric is because he won, like the
Yeah.
player, the golden ball, like for the tournament. That does kind of, mean more to me. I'm trying to think. For Belgium, that set had Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah, I think that's right. I kind of lose track. Yeah,
I
so
have
Kevin
it
De
up.
Bruyne. It
Yeah.
would have been nice to have because Hazard was I think he was the silver ball winner in that tournament, and then Griezmann. Griezmann would be another one I would really love to have in the gold vinyl because he was like kind of the bronze ball winner for the tournament champion. So like for that reason, like those kind of probably those well those two I guess, yeah, because
Hmm.
since Hazard didn't have a landmark. So but yeah, but KDB, like KDB as a player, like he's such a, people appreciate him, but like he's kind of top tier during that era, and he isn't as heavily collected. I mean, with his success with Manchester City is kind of underrated, I think, but I think he was a big reason why they were so dominant. I think he belatedly does get a lot more respect, but yeah, so that was another fun one to get from that era. But and it's cool that he has cards in the 2017 Topps Chrome and the landmark. So have like a mini KDB collection, I guess you could say.
Do you think in 2026, do you think they'll repeat players maybe?
I think they'll probably stay away from it. I guess we'll see. You never know with
Yeah.
Panini. Maybe they may even have multiple players on the same team, but
Right.
I hope they'll keep it to one, not repeating players, to be honest. Um, but yeah, but even then, like I don't know whether they'll have any more serial numbers with this, or they'll leave it as just like kind of just the non-serial numbered inserts. That's kind of the most interesting thing. Like, collectors have been clamoring for more of the serial numbered stuff, but I don't know. I could see arguments both ways. Like I said, like, no serial number, having no serial numbers makes all of just the non-numbered, versions more desirable. And so it takes a little bit away from kind of the chase on those when you have the serial numbers. So I think in some ways preserving that is kind of nice. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, I've seen some early previews, but I don't think we've seen a full checklist yet
Okay.
for 2026 Prism. I'm kind of I'll probably do an episode on that just because of the legacy of kind of its continuing and the legacy type of thing. But that may be as far as I go into kind of new releases. I'm probably going to stay away from that type of content with my channel, but
I mean, yeah, I would hope you do. I'll definitely look forward to that. Yeah, I find it fascinating. Did you think with 2022, as I said, there are, so many copies of like Mane online that like how many were printed? I haven't done my research on pops and stuff like that, but
yeah, and that's why I haven't really dived into it. I mean they made a lot of cases, and these were case hits, and it's like a subset of I guess 31. Um, and so there's definitely hundreds, if not like thousands, probably potentially printed. So, um, just yeah, spend
Yeah.
accordingly with that sort of information, like, right?
Yeah.
So
Do your
yeah,
research.
so yeah, so
Um, well, yeah. So, I mean, maybe we'll kind of as a segue to closing out. I mean, since we've been in the markets, we had this theory that the 2026 World Cup would be when the soccer card market would be, really be humming, right? And it's kind of happening, but
yeah,
not for the reasons we all thought, right? Because the World Cup's gonna be in America and it'll just get all this attention. It's actually just the market overall for sports cards has gone in. Do you think that's
yeah.
also soccer? I mean, just what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's mostly the market as a whole. Yeah, I mean, I think there are certain if you point to certain cards, there may be some that have benefited where people are like, oh, Mbappe is gonna have another amazing tournament. Let me buy all the Mbappe cards. So I think maybe within the soccer market, there are certain, cards that but like the Kaboom's going crazy. I think that's a general like a more of a general card market trend. People think that this is going to be some sort of iconic set that's going to live on, and I'm not buying any of those cards. I chose the landmarks to collect. Personally, if you love them and you love collecting them, I mean, who am I to say you're wrong? But I'm just not gonna, spend that sort of money on, those cards. But personally, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I guess we'll know more after the World Cup's over because I think once the heat of kind of people, deciding to sell at the, quote unquote high of the World Cup hype, after kind of people have, people who bought into it for investment profiting purposes, they're going to sell off at some point before probably the World Cup, and so after the World Cup's over and all the hype has died down, I think we'll get to see what the floor baseline, kind of what the true momentum that was gained from kind of having the World Cup here. I don't necessarily buy into it necessarily that there's a huge hype factor that's related to the increase we've seen recently.
Yeah.
A lot of the increases have been just more of like the goat type investor collectors who are just arms race, trying to find the best cards of Messi, Ronaldo, Lamine Yamal, Mbappe, things like that. But I mean, I think Lamine Yamal probably is hype, World Cup hype. Maybe people view him as you know, as a high likelihood of kind of making a name for himself in the World Cup. So that gambling aspect of speculating plays into him, and um, people were doing it for Endrick for a while, but I don't think kind of he's lost his. I doubt he'll. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. He's actually with Lyon. I guess he's put in some things, so he may make it into the squad and potentially make an impact. But we'll see. Yeah. So I think it's maybe there are pockets where the hype of the World Cup has really helped things, but I think largely it's just overall interest in the space has kind of rebounded after it's kind of you know lull in 2023 24.
Right.
Um,
I agree. Um, and I mean, in 2022, what happened was everyone kind of put their cards up for sale after,
yeah,
and it
exactly.
was
Yeah.
too much supply, and the prices just kind of went down, and it would kind of, that started probably the decline in the market that dip you
Yeah.
just talked about. So maybe this time, people will all do it before. Who knows? But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean you get into kind of collector market like speculation in the sense that what percentage of people are buying into it with the values in mind versus the people who are buying it in terms of, oh, I want to have a great collection. So
hmm
the more people you have in it who just want to build a great collection, the more it's sustainable, the more people who are looking for a sell-off point. An easy sell-off point is the World Cup. And so I'm skeptical that it's like a lot of people collecting for, completely for having a great collection. That's
yeah,
partially why I created my channel. I want to create kind of more collectors in the space who are trying to find cards that, you know, make a great collection rather than people who are just, oh, which one should I buy if I want it to increase in value the most, like, or the type of thing. And what's the point at which I can sell it and make, the most money type of thing. I'm not as interested in that sort of content or even discussion. Other than the fact that, you know, having awareness of when, how much I'm when, when and how much I'm spending my money and allocating funds toward building the cards. So sometimes the best cards that you need come out during these hyped periods. So
Yeah,
and that can be good for you as a collector and type of thing. So um, yeah, that's what makes it fun. There's so much complexity to it, and I might complain about certain aspects of kind of the hype market, but I don't know. It's all part of the entertainment and fun of it. So
I agree, and that's what keeps us coming back, I guess. And I do. I just again want to recommend your channel. It's Soccer Card Collective. It's a podcast. It's a YouTube channel. If you can watch it, I don't watch. I don't watch anything, but you show cards, I assume.
I do, and I've been more cognizant of like making like describing what I'm like showing and being more descriptive. I think my first few episodes I had the conception it was just going to be a YouTube channel, but then I got several people who are like I only listen to audio, and so I was like, oh, let me make it. So I started pushing it into audio, and I wanted to make sure that it was going to be something that I would continue to do. I think, and so I'm going to try to do it one episode a week, just to get, I mean, practice. I think there's probably aspects of the episodes that are a tough listen at this point, but it's all about a learning curve and things like that. So
Well,
hopefully it'll hopefully it'll
people
get
can
better, and I'll give you more practice. So
they can
going
turn it
forward.
off if that's
Exactly. That's what I figure. Like you can
yeah.
critique it, but yeah, you can always turn it off if I'm too unlistenable.
Well, I enjoy it. James, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with me. It's great to meet you. And yeah, look forward to talking to you more soon.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.